Hello everyone, welcome back to Sterilize My Life, and if you're new, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and the content that I post, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, as well as you might want to hit that bell notification. That way you'll be notified every time I post a new video. Quick disclaimer before I jump into answering these questions. I am speaking based on my personal experience and knowledge in the field. My experience may not be the same as another technician's experience, and that is totally fine. That is okay. Every facility has their own set of policy and procedures that they follow, so keep that in mind when you're watching my videos. Alright guys, so I have my list of questions right here. It is a lot and I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as possible. If you think of any other questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section down below, and I will be sure to get to them in my next Q&A video. Is a central service technician the same as a sterile processing technician? Yes, a sterile processing technician and a central processing technician is the same thing. We go by many different names, which is something that you'll want to keep in mind when you're looking for a job in the field. You may also want to search an instrument technician, a central service technician, and also a medical supply technician. Be sure to read the job description of the job that you're applying for. For instance, I seen a posting for a medical supply technician, and when I went to read the job description, the duties matched those of a sterile processing technician. Can you advance in this field? I want to say yes and no. A lot of technicians in the field have held their same positions for years, 20 plus years. When it comes to advancing, such as becoming a lead technician, a manager, or a director, it all depends on the individual that's holding that spot. A lot of times people hold their position. The only time a technician will leave is if they find a better opportunity that offers them more money or a better schedule. If you get certified while already working in the field, can you get a raise? That is a question you would want to ask your supervisor. When I first got into the field, I was offered the base pay, and once I provided my certification, they offered me $1.50 more. So that would be a good question for your supervisor. What is the procedure if an instrument is broken? That would depend on your facility. I've worked at facilities where if an instrument is broken, whether it came down from the OR broken or we tested the instrument on the clean side and it doesn't work or is broken, we'll have a repair bin that we will put it in, and it will either get sent out to be repaired or a service rep will come to the facility and repair it on the spot. Can you have a good work-life balance? Well, that would depend on you as a person, the shift that you're working, and the task that you're assigned to. For instance, if you are assigned to decon or decontamination, you were on your feet for 8 hours. And depending on the workload that day, you may not want to do much after work. If you're assigned to the prep and pack side or sterile storage area, you'll have a bit more energy to do things when you get off of work. And I will always encourage you to use your paid time off to have some you time. Do I need some education to do medical device reprocessing? When learning to become a sterile processing technician, it touches on reprocessing medical devices. And depending on the facility that you work at, a lot of times that is a part of your job description as a sterile processing technician to reprocess medical devices. Is sterile processing a repetitive job, or will you have to learn something new every day? Yes, sterile processing is a repetitive job and you are doing the same thing every day. There may come a time where something is invented to help improve the sterile processing process. For example, I worked at a facility that have a borescope. This borescope gave us the ability to look inside the lumens prior to putting it inside of the ultrasonic, as well as double checking it once it got to the clean side. So while yes, it is a repetitive job, there are things that are invented to help improve the sterile processing process. Is the job hard? Well, that depends on the person and the type of worker you are. For me, no, the job is not a hard job to do, but I have come across some technicians that were new to the field that had a hard time catching on to learning instrumentations and the workflow of the facility. Do you have to be computer savvy? No, you do not have to be computer savvy. There's not much that we actually do on the computers. Do you work with computer programs such as Microsoft or Apple? No, we do not work with any computer program beside our instrument tracking systems. And you will scan your tray, your count sheet will pop up on the screen, and you'll just go through your count sheet and say what's missing from that tray and what's inside of that tray. When asked about starting salary, what should I ask for? When it comes to asking for your starting salary, a part of your research process as you're preparing for your job interview would be to research how much a sterile processing technician is getting paid in your state and in that area, and start there. Any tips on learning instruments? Repetition. You will learn your instruments by repetition, and it will come over time. There's no need to force it. There's no need to study it. A lot of facilities have, well, all facilities should have instrument books that you can refer to. Every instrument have a reference number on it that you can use to look up the instrument, and you'll go to that book, that manufacturer's book, look up that instrument, and just pay attention to detail. The smallest difference, and the difference can be something as small as the different types of serrations or grooves that instrument may have. So repetition and paying attention to detail. And don't be afraid to ask for help. What should I ask during my interview? My best advice for you, if you're going into a job interview and you don't know what questions to ask, think of the type of environment you want to work in and start there. For instance, you may want to know if the job requires a lot of teamwork, or will you be working a lot on your own? Do you have to do a lot of solo projects? What is the communication like between sterile processing and the departments that they service? So just try to think of it like that when you're going into the interview and it's time for you to ask your questions. What can I do to make myself more hireable? Obtain your certification. Not just that, you also want to tailor your resume to the position that you're applying for. And that is possible even if you do not have direct experience in the field. For example, when I first got into the field, my background was in retail, food service, and I also worked as a home health aide. And there were skills and tasks that I learned in those jobs that were transferable to becoming a sterile processing technician. So I tweaked, not so much as tweaked, I made sure to include those skills in my resume. Would you trust an online course in this field? I would say yes, I would trust an online course. However, I will always encourage you to do your research before you give your money to anyone. Make sure you are checking their social media. You call and ask as many questions as you need to. Check their websites. Check any reviews to make sure they are legit before you give them your money. But there's nothing wrong with doing a course online. If that's how you prefer to learn, or if that's more convenient and affordable for you, then go ahead. I'm about to start my new job in this field. Are there any resources to help prepare for the job? Unfortunately, there is not many resources, which is why I started this channel, to kind of give you guys an inside look on the field. So I would say refer to my channel for any resources on what to expect on the job. When you renew your certification, do you have to take the test again? No, you do not have to take the test again in order to renew your certification. You do have to get a certain amount of continuing education credits, and then you'll pay your renewal fee, and that's it. There is also a small grace period if you do miss your deadline to get your renewal. However, after that grace period, you will be required to pay and take the test again. Should I take a course that do not provide labs? So while it's nice to be able to take a course that offers labs and that will give you some hands-on experience before you actually go out into the workforce, it's not a bad thing if you have to go with a course that is unable to provide the labs, because the hands-on experience that you're doing in those labs do not count towards your externship and you obtaining your full certification. Can you do this job while pregnant? Yes, you can be a sterile processing technician while being pregnant. Just keep in mind that as you get further along in the pregnancy, you will need a doctor's note to have work limitations, but it is doable. Can you have artificial nails or nail polish in this field? No, you're not supposed to have artificial nails or nail polish, as well as jewelry, rings, watches, anything that could potentially fall into a tray and contaminate, as well as anything that holds on to bioburden and it's hard to clean. How long is schooling for this field? Depending on the institution that you decide to do your course through, the minimum should be at least 5 months, and it could take as long as a year to go through the course, depending on the institution. However, you do have the option to self-study and take the exam on your own. How is the work environment pace? I would say it is a fast-paced environment, especially when it comes to working in a facility with high turnovers. If you're in like a small facility such as like a clinic or a hospital that does not have a trauma center, I wouldn't say that the pace would be slow, but it would be steady. How long is the externship? That would depend on the hospital that you will be completing your externship in. It depends on the hours that they have available, as well as if they have the bodies, such as a lead technician or someone that is able to train you. Are headphones allowed in the department? No, headphones are not allowed in the department. You have to be able to hear the alarms that go off on the machines, the telephone, as well as any emergency instructions that may come down with a set that has to be turned over stat. What are typical work hours? Typical work hours would be 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Some facilities do offer a mid shift, as well as some facilities may only have 1 to 2 shifts. If you go to school to be a sterile processing technician, will that education count towards the education requirements for a surgical technician? I'm not a surgical technician, so I cannot answer that. However, I can say the job description of a surgical technician and a sterile processing technician is 2 completely different things. Is this job dangerous? Every job has their fair share of workplace hazards. Would I consider this job high on the dangerous scale? No. It's safer than construction work. Is it hard to get into this field? I wouldn't say that it's hard to get into the field. The only hard part is obtaining an externship. Once you get your externship, getting into the field or getting a job should not be that hard. You'll have better luck getting into the field if you're already working in a hospital setting, because most managers are more willing to transfer an individual into their department and train them with no experience versus a new hire with no experience. Is there an age and education requirement to get this job? You must be 18 or older with a GED or a high school diploma in order to work in a hospital, and you must be 21 or older to travel. Can you still work in the daytime while doing your externship? That will depend on the facility that you're doing your externship at. If they're able to work with your schedule, then yes, you are able to work and do your externship. It would just be like working 2 jobs, except you're only getting paid for 1. Is there a lot of math involved in the schooling part? No, there is no math involved at all. What kind of math is required for this field? None. There is no math required to do this job. How much overtime is available? That will depend on the facility that you work at. There is usually a lot of overtime depending on the workload and the manpower in the department. Are there online courses to become certified? Yes, there are some online courses available to become certified, not many. I do know that Isham offers scholarships quite frequently for online courses. Who should I get certified through? There are 2 organizations that offer a sterile processing technician certification. You have Isham, they offer a CRCST, and you are required to renew that annually. And you have CBSPD, they offer the CSPDT, and they require you to renew that every 5 years. I would say do your research on both organizations. They both have different requirements as to how to obtain the full certification. I would advise you to take a look at both of their websites to figure out which organization would be best for you. So that is all of the questions that I have for you guys. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments section down below, and I will be sure to answer them in my next Q&A video. Again, if you liked this video and found it to be helpful for you, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!